Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Tonic Accord podcast. We're coming at you with a tier list. This is who we think is good and bad in the world of news sites and political reporting. We think that this would be a fun one just because we want to have some fun. It's been a stressful freaking year. There's a lot of crazy crap going on lately, so we figured we'd just kind of do a tier list for fun because it's fun. Alex, tier list. Give me some of the good ones. Give me some of the bad ones. And I also know you shared with me this like lean chart, and I do want to take a look at that. So tell me what you think of that.
Okay, cool, Drew. Good to be talking. Yeah, actually, while you're just on that chart, I just wanted to start out with kind of how I view this chart. We have, center, then we have left and right, and then we have kind of like left, and right. So like hard left, hard right. And I basically tell people, stay inside those first three categories where it's like center left, center right, because when you get to the far left or the far right, those aren't reputable news sources, in my opinion. Those are opinions. Like, you could not say Breitbart or Buzzfeed are really giving you good news. I don't think you could say that, let's see, Huffington Post and The Blaze are giving you good news. So stay in the middle, guys. Stay somewhere not too extreme. But okay, I'll give you my top two and my top bottom ones, and if we have time, I'll go further. But The Economist is my number one.
Okay, so hold on. So for you, you're putting Economist S tier.
Yes, because I think it's a British magazine that has great insight, especially into American politics, because I think they have a great outsider look into kind of what we're doing. They kind of have the Adam Smith classical liberal view where like free markets are good, but we need to help people with social safety nets as well. And they just cover everything, man. And
they do, and very well.
Yes, very well, exactly. And so my tie for second is The Atlantic and Reuters. So I think Reuters is seriously unbiased, and The Atlantic is kind of like, I kind of put it similar to The Economist, but on an American standpoint. They're definitely left-leaning, but they bring in contributors from the left and the right, and I think they actually criticize the left sometimes when you wouldn't think they would.
Yeah, I haven't disagreed with that. Reuters, I would maybe put B tier. Well, I guess they're pretty good. But definitely, Economist, to me, you got me into them. S tier. Even when I disagree with them, I think their arguments are genuine, well-reported, thought out, sourced. You could get a good balance of world takes if you spend enough time on their site. They won't. And they have a pretty good reputation. The Economist is definitely S tier. Atlantic's up there as well. Let's see. For me, NPR is A tier. Kind of boring, kind of a little boomer and lame, but I do like their content because it's good reporting. It's good that it's boring and lame. I think that's its strength. It's not supposed to be entertainment. It's supposed to be like news, and that's what you get. Let's see. We could just go down the list. AP, I mean, that's just literally just facts, right? So if not S tier, maybe I'll do A tier because AP doesn't give like the AP doesn't give you like an interesting like take. It's literally just facts. So maybe A tier. I don't know. What do you think? AP, S tier, A tier?
No, I think A tier is a good one because you're right. There's not like an in-depth analysis that kind of like, I like The Economist because they add opinion analysis to facts, right?
Right, and as long as you realize that's what you're getting, then that's fine, and they make it known, and that's the idea. Is like, the opinion side of The Economist will have a good balance of different opinions, and they make it very clear that it's opinion based. So that's what's good. Whereas someone like Blaze here, I'm gonna have to put down in F tier. I think Blaze is clickbait garbage, and it's identity politics for the right.
Yep.
And I think that, I don't know if they're here. Oh, here they are. Occupy Democrats is right there with them.
Oh, God.
Right there with them. F tier clickbait trash. If you ever go on Facebook and scroll through Occupy Democrats, it's the most like virtue signaling SJW, like really left leaning, like just bad. Trying to portray itself as news, but it's really left leaning propaganda. So it's down there F tier. What else is your F tier?
Well, first, I would love to occupy that publication and take it over because I agree with you. Okay, so into the bottom tier, mine, the Epic Times would be number one because they have a really interesting advertising strategy. Is that they basically do ads on your YouTube videos. So I was watching Tim Dillon a few days ago, and I got a advertisement for the Epic Times, and they make it sound like it's this reputable news source. And then the same day, I looked in the mail and I actually received the Epic Times in the mail, and it looks like the New York Times. If you pull it out, it looks like a reputable source. But then when you start digging into what they're saying, it's like deep state conspiracy, Hunter Biden, the hoax of Trump, in Russia. The election was stolen. It basically is masquerading as a New York Times-esque publication, but it's spewing bullshit. Huh. So I would put that very, very, very bottom. They have this guy. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the ad. They have this guy who's reading it, and it's actually that guy, the guy with the beard right there.
Editor-in-chief.
And he basically talks about how finally you're getting good news. And it's appealing, and they're actually probably lying to people and getting them to subscribe. But there's not a lot of good news in there. It's all very deep state-esque, I guess I would say. And
they got demonetized on YouTube, it looks like.
I wonder why.
A letter from the editor. YouTube demonetizes the Epic Times. Yeah, I think I received some of those ads as well. It was like a guy. It was like a guy like a polo being like, "Do you need a news station?" Yeah. Weird. They're not even on this tier list. That's okay, but we'll put them down in F tier. The Epoch Times. Nice. I'm gonna get off their website so they don't get any more ad revenue.
Okay. Well, the second one then, BuzzFeed. I think BuzzFeed is. Let's not put F. Let's put D. Because this was a website that started as kind of a quiz type of platform, right?
Yeah.
Where you can go on there and find which Lord of the Rings character you look like. I got Legolas or something, I don't know. But it went from that to all of a sudden they're breaking stories. They've actually broken some pretty serious stories involving like collusion. I remember back in the day when the Russia stuff was going on.
Right.
And I just don't find them very reputable. It's a lot of kind of like clickbaity, though you can kind of verify it stuff that I think has actually made a lot of maybe more center-left people fall for it. And so I do think that they're misleading.
Yeah, BuzzFeed News is a weird one because it did have this like moment where it almost became a reputable news source like a year or two ago. And I even saw like pundits being like, well, ignore the main website, but the news section is actually somewhat legitimate. And it's like, interesting, but I think it's plagued by its name. I think it's plagued by its ties to clickbait culture. I mean, BuzzFeed is the reason we have the word clickbait. like that's like BuzzFeed conquered clickbait so early on. So yeah, I mean, D tier, it would be like a C if it was on its own. If it was just like, blowy news on its own, it'd be maybe C tier because it has broken some stories. It's not the best. But I think the ties to BuzzFeed drops it down.
Absolutely. I would agree with that.
BBC. Let's just go. I'm going to go down these. BBC. B. That's for me. I think their ties to the British government is worrisome because they don't criticize enough of Britain itself. But they do good international reporting. And I do love me a classic BBC reporter voice. The guy that's like the guy like, today in Pakistan, the ISIS has fought 4 new troops. I do love that stuff. BBC News. So, but I do think they have a reputation for like not criticizing the British government, not running stories of pedophilia among the British government. So they like obviously do things to help the British government, but they're really good at reporting other governments.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that because I kind of treat BBC like NPR for American news. I don't get my British news from BBC because I think you're right, but they do a great job of international reporting. And I do find for this podcast especially, I do get a lot of my just kind of headline news when, if we're talking about the Rohingya situation in Myanmar.
Right.
The BBC does a great job of telling you kind of the basics of what's happening.
Right. I mean, hey, my India farmer protests, how rural incomes have struggled to keep up. We didn't really get too much into it, but we talked there's wages and debts. That's all BBC News. So they're definitely good. But it's a good point. Like, don't get your British news from the BBC. That's funny. Business Insight. Let's do Breitbart. I mean, for me, it's F.
Okay.
For me, it's F tier. I think it's alt-right trash. I think it's reactionary, it's inflammatory, and it's based in it's just Steve Bannon's garbage. What do you think?
I'm gonna give them a D for not the reason why I actually think their news is good, but because I think they early on were interesting in kind of getting the temperature for cultural trends inside of the United States. It was Andrew Breitbart who said culture's downstream from politics, which is something that kind of Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire have taken to kind of as their religion. And I do think that the significance of Andrew Breitbart should not be ignored because he did understand that politics is more than politics. It's about the culture of it and what are people seeing, what are people reading, what are people watching. And that's something I think the left has always won is the culture, like the culture of what people like on Netflix, on HBO, what are people doing? And I think Breitbart tried to be that. Now the Daily Wire is kind of like Breitbart 2.0, but I don't read Breitbart. I don't think I've ever even read more than like an article. I think you're right. It's to me, it's on the same like level as the Blaze, but they do. I think Andrew Breitbart himself, maybe not the paper, he was good at gauging what's happening in the country.
Well, that's definitely true. That's definitely true. Because they're very successful compared to what they were 5-10 years ago. So I agree with that. But as far as like getting your news, are you going to get unbiased, good, factual news? No way. No way. We don't have to go through all of these. I'm gonna start just doing some biggie boys. CNN, gets a C in my book. CNN is kind of the poster child for mainstream media. And it kind of deserves this slot. Like I still think that if you watch CNN, if you watch CNN and compared to someone who doesn't watch CNN, and that's like the only baseline you're going off of, the guy who watches CNN, in my opinion, is more informed. But it doesn't mean he's completely informed. It doesn't mean he's informed correctly or without bias. CNN, I think, gets a lot of things wrong. Is very, especially more recently, is really trying to, like you said, gauge culture and base their reporting off of that. So they'll report like stories about a white woman named Karen harassing a black man. That will get a ton of viewage. And of course, I still don't think that's right. But is that really the news story that everyone needs to see right now? Like, you know what I mean? Like they really play off culture war. So CNN gets a C because sometimes they do give you good news. The airport version of CNN is better. Like the airport version of CNN is like way more just basic news. But if you're watching mainstream CNN all day, you're going to be kind of annoying. You're gonna think that everything in the world is falling apart. And you like I would encourage anyone that goes to CNN a lot to really expand their sources. I check CNN like as like a homepage just to see what headlines are, just to see what how the cultural headlines. I don't view them as what I think. It's just CNN is a good way to get a pulse on like American headlines and where mainstream media is at, but it's not a good way to get all your news. Not at all.
Yeah, and going off of that, like, and hear me out, I would probably put Fox News next to CNN as a C, not because of all of Fox News' coverage, but again, I think you brought up a really, really good point, is that the daytime coverage on both Fox and CNN is quite just breaking news, like covering the stories with a different like tinge, whatever you believe in, and then you get into the nighttime shows, and they're also the same. Like, I feel like both of them claim to be non-biased, but then as soon as the clock hits like 5 p.m., it gets super biased. Like Don Lemon to me is the equivalent of Hannity. Like Don Lemon has said so many fake and just like out of context things. And clearly Hannity, I would say, is worse because he did, go along with this stolen election propaganda and all that. But yeah, as soon as you get into late night on CNN or Fox, they become biased news. And I hate that both of them say fair and balanced and, just covering the news. But you're right. If I sat in the airport and watched CNN, or if I go on Fox News' main website, it's probably going to be a relatively non-biased take on the news. And so, yeah, those two I would put as a C. They really are just kind of establishment during the day, and let's play with fire at night. Yeah,
their reporting part, like Fox, for example, like Fox News actual reporting, their factual reporting wing is fine. I mean, hell, they called Arizona before everyone else did. Like they reported the election pretty fairly. It's the opinion section. Like for me, the opinion section of Fox News is D. but the reporting is probably a C. For me,
Fair.
CNN is a C for both. So, but you're right. They're both there. I mean, like if you watch Fox News and CNN all day, you will get a somewhat of an understanding of where American public lies, but you will not get a nuanced and critical and analytical approach to any issue very deeply at all.
No.
You'll just get a very
No.
skim the surface. What do Americans feel right now? That's what you'll get from these two, but you're not going to get good news. Let's go to, let's see, what's good on here? How about this? InfoWars.
Are we talking information or entertainment?
Information F, but because let's be real, it's an F. But as far as entertainment, bro, S, dog.
I was telling my dad this is that like I feel like if people had the ability to double check or fact check what the information they're getting, I feel like Alex Jones never would have been canceled because like he's relatively funny and entertaining, but it's just you had too many freaking just people that are sheep and just followed whatever he said, and now he has been very dangerous to the like zeitgeist of the nation, you know.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. It's like Roger Stone and Alex Jones BSing about deep state stuff and frogs turning gay. I'm with you, but I do I'm not gonna lie, I love watching Alex Jones. He's hilarious.
Me too. I mean, first of all, I also want to be very clear. I hope that none of our viewers are also avid InfoWars viewers, like unironically. But if you are, InfoWars is not a news channel. InfoWars is a marketing campaign to peddle male enhancement products. If you look at every single episode of Alex Jones, he ends by selling you some pill or some fake biochem mind enhancer. He's a snake oil salesman. So obviously, in my opinion, he's an F, but man, is he fun to watch. And like you said, him and Roger Stone, they'll do a mountain of cocaine and go off about Hillary Clinton. It's great. But not news, not at all. Another one that I think is bad from the left is Mother Jones. This is maybe D or even F. I mean, every single Mother Jones article I see is the most like clickbaity, supposed to piss off anyone who's not like a rad femme. Like it's very like radical femme clickbait, like.
Well, I mean, the name.
You know, it'll be stuff like you know, should Simpsons writers make Homer Simpson trans? And you're like, what?
Yeah.
You know, like so out of left field. So yeah, Mother Jones, honestly, F tier.
I don't know if the Babylon B is on here. I'm assuming not, but I find the Babylon B amazing. I mean,
that's satire, though. That's satire.
Oh, of course. But okay, so the one casualty of the last 4 years, I think, is the New York Times, who a couple years ago I would have given an A, and now I'd kind of put them in C category. You know, they have great articles, great writers, and clearly know what they're doing. But I think they've lost a lot of credibility for me personally because they clearly are part of cancel culture. And I think the Republicans have kind of ruined that term because now Howley's going around talking about cancel culture while he has a book deal and can go on any news site to talk. But the New York Times, you know, there was, what's her name, Barry Wise, who's quite a centrist Jewish reporter. And she basically wanted to write about cancel culture and about how the left is kind of like unsympathetic to some of these things. And she got laughed out of the building. And, you know, you had that Tom Cotton article, you know, about calling the National Guard, and the editors were removed. It's almost like the New York Times has gotten so sensitive during this culture war, if you want to call it that they're afraid to put out anything that could be deemed controversial. And I think during a time like this, it just plays into the fear on both sides of just not being able to say what you think. And, you know, the New York Times is such a great publication, and I'm just sad to see that you have people, especially on the editorial board, leaving so often because they said something that apparently the owners don't agree with.
Yeah. I remember that like letter came out of that editor who left and put out that, and it went viral about, you know, the silencing that she felt happened at the New York Times. It's definitely, I would still probably put him at a B for me, just because I do think the time, like, they probably like when they get it right, they're really good. When they get it right, like it's really informational, informative, and I think good. But you're right that their reputation has dwindled. They used to be A. For me, they're down maybe in B. For you, they're down in C. So they're definitely on the way down. I go to the New York Times less and less. I have found that generally I go to the New York Times less and less. And then not to mention that I think they're now paywalled. So I don't even know if I'm going to pay for that.
No, I wouldn't.
So yeah. So good luck, New York Times. What else? I don't want to go through all these, but
fair.
Let's see. One American News.
oh, definitely an S, dude. They let my boy Mike Lindell, who, if you haven't seen my recent catching up, I'm getting all the hate from the Mike Lindell fans apparently.
Yeah. One American News is right wing propaganda. It's Fox News. If Fox News, took out the if Fox News took off the gloves, that's them. So to me, they're F tier. MSNBC, D tier to me. I think it's I can't stand like Rachel Maddow and that whole like liberal lineup. Even though I may agree with some of their opinions, it's just annoying. MSNBC is kind of lame. I don't know.
See, I would actually disagree. I would put them above CNN, mainly because you know what you're getting with them.
That's true.
Like CNN tries to tell you like it's always unbiased and fair, and it's like no, they definitely hate Trump.
Yeah.
It's the same way Fox News is biased and fair, but Trump always is good. MSNBC, you're going to get Rachel Maddow, spewing about Trump, or Chris Hayes spewing about the Republicans. Like, you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
CNN, like, if you're an alien who turned on the TV at the airport when you arrive, you're like, is this good news? I don't know.
They're a little bit more honest about where they're at. That's funny.
Yeah.
What about you? What about New York Post?
I would put them. Is there an E category?
They're pretty
or actually,
bad.
E, yeah. Well, they put out that Hunter Biden story with clearly no corroboration or anything, right? Like they don't care.
And they were the one that buried the Stormy Daniels one, right? They buried stories for Trump and then planted stories for Trump. So that's about all I have to say about that. Politico, I put a C. I used to like Politico when I was in college. They do have some interesting things. They're kind of like they're political junkie snacks. And some of the stuff are really good, but much like Mother Jones, some of their stuff is really weird and clickbaity, and they like to play with things that like they'll still talk about like is Hillary Clinton being a woman why she didn't win, and you're like, dude, come on, man, like for real. So Politico used to be cool, but I think they're dwindling as well.
I want to give I totally agree with you there. I want to actually give a weird shout out to Vox.
Dude, yo.
As I'm sure our listeners and I like Ben Shapiro. I don't agree with him a lot. But I'm forgetting Ezra Klein, and there's the other guy who's left Vox now, but he was one of the co-founders. Gosh, what's his name? It's like Carlos Mazzi or something like that.
I'm not sure.
No. But anyways, they're the only guys of all the left-wing establishment who have been willing to go on Ben Shapiro's show and, actually have what I would consider an A+ debate. I don't agree with all of Vox's articles, but the fact they're doing these informational videos, these little shorts, and also that they are willing to go debate population and immigration with Ben Shapiro, I'm like, bring it on. Ezra Klein and Ben Shapiro actually had a great hour and a half debate where they were friends. They got along, but they disagreed. And I kind of like it. And so I don't read a lot of Vox's articles, but their videos can be informative. And the fact that one of their founders is willing to talk with the other side like that, I like that.
I think Vox does what the Young Turks tried to do, but better. So,
yeah,
like Vox is hip, young. They really cool graphics, this quick informational videos. But from most of what I see from Vox, I think is pretty well done and pretty good, and not even that like super liberal leaning. Like they'll just they'll talk about issues of environmentalism in Africa. if you consider that to be left leaning on its own, then maybe that's just you. But like that's an issue that anyone should be talking about. So like I like that you shout Vox. I like Vox too. I think that they have that youth information vibe about them that I think the Young Turks tried to do and got a little too weird with. Young Turks has had some weird characters, like really strange characters come out of the Young Turks, including what's that guy who went to the right wing and got completely like shafted by all his friends? Dan something.
I don't even know. I can't get over Cenk. His name's Cenk, right? I would love to punch him.
Yeah, he ran for office near me last year and lost. Yeah, so he's a controversial character. I like Hassan Piker, who became a Twitch streamer out of the Young Turks, who's like a political commentator. He's pretty radical left. I just like him because he's funny. But that's the thing is like the Young Turks, I don't think became what they wanted to, and so I put them in C, maybe even D. But I like Vox, which is also left-leaning and youthful, I think did it a lot better.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just remember the video where Cenk, what's his name? Cenk
Uyghur, Cenk something like that?
Yeah. I just remember when Alex Jones trolled him at the DNC convention like 4 years ago, and he couldn't take a joke.
Yeah.
Like he just is the most unlikable guy. He's too progressive for me. Now, Kyle Kalinske, I think, is part of the Young Turks. I agree with you. There's people on there I like, but I would probably go D.
Is Kyle Kalinske TYT? I thought Kyle Kalinske was on his own.
I believe he is linked. Let me see. He is his own personality, no doubt.
Yeah, because I vibe with Kyle Kalinske, not all the time, but I vibe with Kyle Kalinske. I respect him. No, totally. And I wanted to give a shout out really quick to a news site that is not on here, but I just actually feel like okay, so it says he's an affiliate of the Young Turks. Okay, so he's probably in their wheelhouse or whatever. Yeah.
Yes. But I just wanted to give a shout out really quick to the Bulwark. It's a independently started media company by Charlie Sykes and Bill Kristol, neocons, for all of you leftists who would probably hate that term now. But it's actually like, if you get away from the fact that Bill Kristol was involved in, perpetuating 9/11 and, he was involved in 9/11. I take that back. But he was involved in the invasion of Iraq and like saying that it was a good idea. And, these neocons under Bush, they have obviously been anti-Trumpers, never Trumpers. And there's actually an amazing podcast, The Bulwark, amazing news site, The Bulwark, and Charlie Sykes is a Wisconsin conservative radio guy, and he basically is like, we need to start a third party or redeem the Republican Party. And like, it's nice, as myself being kind of center right, it's nice getting a voice for conservatives that are actually worried about the party. And they talk about how the center left and the center right just need to maybe say, hey, we're not going to agree on gay marriage or abortion, but we can agree on practical Medicare policies or practical immigration policies, stuff like that. And they basically just bring on people like Adam Kinzinger, other just like conservative thinkers who are terrified of what's happening. And I really like it. They're genuine, and they know that whatever conservatism is not what's happening.
Now, but would they be like a news site or more of just like an opinion-based site?
That's a good question because, that's a really good question because I know, what was it, the Daily Standard or whatever that Bill Kristol was involved in, that went, the Weekly Standard, excuse me, went under, which was kind of like a conservative. Let's see, the Weekly Standard was a political magazine of news, analysis, and commentary, published 48 times per year. So, kind of a opinion. I would say kind of a, I don't know, but kind of more of a weekly magazine, kind of opinion.
It's like a newsletter magazine. I'm checking it out right now. We will get through this together. Interesting messaging.
No, they're about unity, man. Like they had a guy on today who was talking about like basically if you had a lemonade stand on the far left and a lemonade stand on the far right, if you actually wanted to bring people together or like benefit everyone, you would put a lemonade stand right in the middle. And you would get some people from both sides. So eventually the other two lemonade stands are like, hey, we're not selling anymore. We should move closer to this middle one. So their idea is that maybe they can tame down Trumpism and also tame down like the AOC progressivism and be like, hey, we disagree on abortion, but we can agree on like, COVID funding and stuff like that. I think it's a necessary conversation on the right.
I vibe with it.
Yeah.
I can hear that. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself a neocon by any stretch of the means, but I can vibe with that sentiment for sure. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing here at the Tonic Accord. Hopefully,
Absolutely.
is making sure that people don't get too wrapped up in the extremes, whatever side, whatever quadrant of the political compass. Don't go too far down the rabbit hole. Cool, man. The Bulwark. So it's not on this list, but you would put that what, A tier?
Yes, because I don't think they cover enough like news to put to really put them anymore.
Yeah,
But
they're more of an opinion
they're good
newsletter.
commentators.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So last couple ones before we wrap this up. The last one I would put in S tier for me is The Guardian. I think The Guardian has, for me at least, for years they've consistently given me good information, a variety of takes, and a lot of good international news. I think The Guardian's great.
Yes.
And again, it's like, it's not, and when people hear me, when we talk about this, it's not about, I agree with everything The Guardian puts out. It's just, I think it's well done. I think it's well researched, well crafted, good, well sourced, and a good variety of topics. It's not about if I agree with it all the time or not. Now, obviously the ones down in F tier, I probably disagree with most of what they say. Maybe not Occupy Democrats. They're just annoying and propagandist. But all of these in the F tier are very propaganda heavy and very biased and very not and disingenuous in their reporting. Whereas up at A and S tier are more legitimate in their reporting, well sourced, and it doesn't matter if I agree with them or not. It's just good news, or well done news and journalism. So again, I want to make sure that we're being clear about it's not about agreeing with. It's about quality of the reporting. And The Guardian and The Economist to me are S tier.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like pretty much most of the research when we're doing, say, like a pretty complex international issue or economic or whatever, for me, it's usually between The Guardian and The Economist. I totally agree with you. Like, I think that should be a litmus test for people is like, can you read this, maybe disagree with it, but feel like you're getting information that maybe you didn't know? Or do you know that it's being fact checked? Like, are you being challenged? And I totally agree with you on The Guardian. It's a great news source. Is it English? I'm trying to.
I think it's British. Yeah, or yeah. I mean, it's from the UK. I believe
Whatever.
It's from the UK.
That's
Yeah, I mean, Economist as well. Isn't Economist in British?
Yeah, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, they're doing good. They're doing good, except for BBC. And well, actually, there's what I mean, is it the Daily Beast? Is that British? That one's pretty bad.
And I think the Daily Mail is too.
Oh, the Daily Mail. That's what it is. The Daily Mail UK. Yeah, no, the Daily Mail is like Hollywood garbage. You know.
Yes.
Like, here's what the princess wore a terrible dress today. Like, oh my God. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. And they try to dabble into politics too, which is always fun.
Yeah. So I took a picture of that tier list. Maybe we can like post it on the Instagram or something. Like, do you agree, and see what people say? But
I definitely agree. We should do that. And before we're out of here, the only last one I would say is foreign policy. I really like foreign policy. It's kind of like, it's very adjacent to The Economist in terms of their leanings, I feel like. But as someone who loves foreign policy, they just do a great job of talking about the issues that a lot of other news sites don't even go into depth with.
Right.
Now, I think this is a U.S. leaning news source. So like most of their opinions are benefiting the U.S. So if you're like on the other side of that, maybe you won't like it, but it's really good. And I would also just put in the Wall Street Journal. I would put them as a B. So yeah. That's all I got for you.
Yeah, that's fair. And then there's a billion more we could do. You know, we didn't even touch the Hill or the New Yorker or anything like that. But these are the big boys, and some of the fun ones like InfoWars. Of course, remember, folks, that there is always bias in journalism. It's not something we can escape. It's just inherent in human nature. It's okay. It's just, as long as we accept it, realize it, and try to minimize it. And being honest about journalism and reporting. So, you know, to claim that The Economist is unbiased is untrue. But there's certainly a gradient, I think, in the bias and the acceptance of it, or at least the acknowledgement of it. And then also the quality of reporting around it, regardless of the bias, is important as well. So just remember that when you're getting your news sources, you know, diversify where you get your news sources from. Do your own due diligence to figure out, you know, is this a trusted, reputable source or not? And maybe look at, you know, and I encourage you, whether you're left or right, to look at some news sources from the other side and see what they're saying. Hopefully that has been fun and informative to you all. I'd love to see your tier lists. You can actually find this site, tiermaker.com. I just basically looked for news sites tier list, and this is what came up. You can do your own tier list, and you can share it with us. We'd love to see. So thank you all for tuning into the Tonic Accord. Check us out at Podbean, YouTube, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and now Spotify. Take care all, and have a great day.
I'm gonna go watch Infowars now.
Infowars, right, and The Blaze. All right, take care, everyone.